Imagine a single planet stitched together from the corpses of hundreds of dead universes. A world where the zombie apocalypse rages in one territory, while a perfect technological utopia hums along in another, separated only by a wall. A world where thousands of versions of Thor serve as a police force, where the dystopian future of apocalypse never ended, where the year is somehow 1602 and 2099 at the same time, depending on which border you cross. And ruling over all of it, from a throne grown from the top of his castle, is a single being who has made himself God. This is Battleworld. The setting of the 2015 Secret Wars event, written by Jonathan Hickman, and one of the most ambitious pieces of world-building Marvel Comics has ever attempted. To understand Battleworld is to understand the death of the entire Marvel multiverse and the birth of a new one. So let's break down exactly what Battleworld is, how it came to exist, who rules it, how it functions, and what it all ultimately means. Let's get into it. The death of everything. How we got here. Before Battleworld could exist, everything else had to die. And to understand that death, we have to talk about the incursions. For years leading into Secret Wars, Jonathan Hickman built a slow-motion apocalypse across his runs on Avengers and New Avengers. The central threat was a phenomenon called the incursions. Across the multiverse, something had gone catastrophically wrong with the fundamental structure of reality. Universes were beginning to collide with one another. Not metaphorically, literally. Two separate universes would intersect at a single point, the Earth of one universe materializing in the sky above the Earth of another. When that happened, both universes had a limited window of time, roughly 8 hours, before the collision destroyed both realities completely. There was only one way to prevent it: destroy one of the two Earths before the timer ran out. Kill one world to save two universes. Sacrifice billions to save trillions. This was the impossible moral horror at the heart of the lead-up to Secret Wars. The Illuminati, that secret council of Marvel's smartest and most powerful heroes, including Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Black Bolt, Namor, and Beast, were forced to confront the incursions in secret. They tried every conceivable solution. They built devices to push colliding worlds apart. They searched for cosmic intervention. They begged higher powers for help. And eventually, they were forced to build weapons capable of destroying entire planets. Because when an incursion came, and there was no other option, the only choice was to blow up the other Earth, or let everyone in both universes die. Some members of the Illuminati could not bring themselves to do it. Captain America, when he learned of the plan, refused to compromise his morals and was mind-wiped to remove his knowledge of the conspiracy. Namor did what the others couldn't and destroyed a populated Earth, fracturing the group. The Illuminati tore themselves apart over the weight of these decisions. But here is the crucial revelation. The incursions were not a natural disaster. They were being caused deliberately. The architects of the multiverse's destruction were cosmic entities called the Beyonders, beings of incomprehensible power who existed outside and above the entire multiverse. The Beyonders were systematically murdering the multiverse, destroying every reality one by one as part of an experiment, an act of cosmic curiosity, or simply because they could. And one man figured this out before anyone else. One man understood what was truly happening and devised a plan to do something about it. That man was Victor Von Doom. Doom's Gambit, killing gods. Dr. Doom, the armored monarch of Latveria, the eternal rival of Reed Richards, was not a member of the Illuminati. Reed had specifically refused to include him, a decision that would haunt him. While the heroes flailed against the incursions, Doom went hunting for the source. Doom, accompanied by Doctor Strange and the Molecule Man, a being named Owen Reese with near-limitless power over matter and energy, confronted the Beyonders directly. And in an act of impossible audacity, Doom did what gods could not. He killed them. Using the Molecule Man as a kind of cosmic bomb, a being whose power was secretly tied to the very fabric of the multiverse, Doom and his allies destroyed the Beyonders and stole their power. All of it. The combined might of the entities who had been casually exterminating universes now belonged to Victor Von Doom. But there was a catch. By the time Doom seized this power, it was too late to save the multiverse. The incursions had run their course. Reality was collapsing. The very last incursion was occurring between the two final surviving universes, the main Marvel universe, Earth 616, and the Ultimate Universe, Earth 1610. Despite everything the heroes of both worlds did, despite a desperate final battle on a collapsing Earth, both universes were destroyed. Everything ended. Everything except what Doom managed to save. In the final moments before total oblivion, Doom used his stolen Beyonder power to grab fragments of dying realities, pieces of universes that had been destroyed by the incursions, slices of worlds, kingdoms, timelines, and dimensions. And with the help of the Molecule Man providing the raw power and Doctor Strange serving as his right hand, Doom stitched these fragments together into something new. A single planet. A patchwork world built from the salvaged corpses of hundreds of dead universes. The birth of God. Emperor Doom. When the dust settled and reality reformed, there was only Battleworld, floating alone in an otherwise empty cosmos. There was no wider universe anymore. No other planets, no stars in the conventional sense, no multiverse. Just this one world and the void around it. As far as the inhabitants of Battleworld knew, this single planet was all that had ever existed and all that ever would. And Doom did not just save this world. He ruled it. Completely. Absolutely. Divinely. Doom took the power of the Beyonders and used it to make himself God. Not a metaphor. Not an exaggeration. Within the reality of Battleworld, Victor Von Doom is the literal, omnipotent God of all existence. He is the creator, the sustainer, and the supreme authority over every living thing on the planet. His word reshapes reality. His will is law in the most literal possible sense. He has existed as God for what the inhabitants believe to be all of time, and the history of the world was rewritten so that Doom was always the divine ruler. This is one of the most important things to understand about Battleworld. Doom did not just conquer a world, he rewrote the memories and histories of everyone on it so that they believe he has always been God, that there was never anything before him, that his divine rule is the natural and eternal order of existence. The truth of the old multiverse, the incursions, the Beyonders, all of it was erased from the minds of nearly everyone. Only a tiny handful of beings retained any memory of the world that came before. Doom even reshaped his own personal history into something he had always wanted. In this new reality, Doom is married to Susan Storm, the Invisible Woman, the wife of his hated rival Reed Richards in the old world. Together, they have 2 children, Franklin and Valeria, taking the family that Reed once had and making it Doom's own. Sue has no memory of Reed. She believes she has always been Doom's queen. It is, in its way, the deepest expression of Doom's lifelong envy of Reed Richards, that even as God, what he wanted was the life Reed had. The structure of Battleworld, domains and barons. So how does this patchwork planet actually function? Battleworld is divided into distinct territories called domains. Each domain is a fragment of a different destroyed reality, preserved and placed side by side on the surface of the single planet. There are dozens of these domains, and each one operates according to the rules of the reality it came from. Think of it like a quilt or a map of feudal kingdoms. Each domain is its own little world with its own characters. its own version of history, and its own internal logic. But all of them exist on the same planet, and most of them share borders with their neighbors. Travel from one domain to another, and you might go from a world of cowboys and Old West gunslingers to a world of high-tech cyberpunk dystopia, to a world where the heroes never stopped fighting a civil war. Each domain is governed by a baron, a regional ruler appointed by Doom to maintain order within that territory. The barons answer directly to Doom and serve as his feudal lords, keeping their domains in line and enforcing his divine law. Some barons are familiar faces in unfamiliar roles. For instance, in some domains, characters who were villains in the old universe rule as barons, while characters who were heroes live as subjects. The political structure is explicitly feudal, with Doom as the god king at the top, the barons as his nobility, and the ordinary inhabitants as subjects who worship Doom as their deity. The key rule of Battleworld, the law above all other laws, is this: do not cross between domains without authorization, and do not question the divine authority of Doom. Travel between domains is restricted and policed. The histories are kept separate, and any challenge to Doom's godhood is the ultimate heresy, punishable by death. The Thors, Doom's divine police force. To enforce his law across all the domains, Doom needed a police force worthy of a god, and he created one of the most striking concepts in all of Battleworld: the Thors. Across the destroyed multiverse, there had been countless versions of Thor, countless beings worthy of wielding a hammer and the power of thunder. When Doom built Battleworld, he gathered these myriad Thors from across the dead realities and made them his enforcers. The Thors are a core, an army of hammer-wielding demigods who serve as the law enforcement of Battleworld. When a crime is committed, when someone crosses a border illegally, when heresy is spoken against Doom, the Thors descend. They are judge, jury, and executioner, wielding the power of storms in the name of God Emperor Doom. There are female Thors, alien Thors, Thors from every corner of the old multiverse, all united under Doom's banner. They patrol the skies of Battleworld, and to see one arrive is to know that judgment has come. This concept is so central and so compelling that it got its own tie-in series during Secret Wars, simply titled Thors, which functioned as a kind of police procedural following these divine officers as they investigated a series of murders that threatened to unravel some of Battleworld's deepest secrets. The Thors believe they serve a just god. Most of them have no idea what Doom truly is, or how the world really came to be. Sheriff Strange and the power structure. Beneath Doom in the hierarchy of Battleworld sits his most trusted servant, Dr. Strange. In this reality, Strange serves as the sheriff of Battleworld, Doom's right hand and the administrator of his divine will across the domains. Strange is one of the very few beings who remembers fragments of the truth, who knows that Doom is not a true eternal god, but a man who seized power in the multiverse's final moments. Strange's role is fascinating because he genuinely helped save what remained of existence. He stood with Doom against the Beyonders. He believes, on some level, that Doom's rule, however tyrannical, is better than the alternative, which is total non-existence. Strange manages Battleworld's affairs, oversees the Barons, and keeps the machinery of Doom's divine government running. He is the closest thing Doom has to a true confidant, and his eventual fate becomes a pivotal moment in the larger story. The God Emperor's throne itself is a sight to behold. Doom rules from Castle Doom, and from the top of his castle grows the World Tree, a massive tree upon which Doom's throne sits, symbolically placing him above all of creation. The imagery is deliberately mythological, evoking the world trees of Norse and other mythologies, casting Doom as the divine axis around which all of Battleworld revolves. The Domains, a tour of the patchwork world, Let's actually explore some of the domains that make up Battleworld, because the sheer variety is what makes this concept so rich. Each domain was its own tie-in series during Secret Wars, allowing Marvel to revisit beloved alternate realities and famous storylines, now repurposed as territories on Doom's world. There is the domain of the Age of Apocalypse, where the dystopian timeline in which Apocalypse rules over a devastated world continues to exist. There is the domain based on the Age of Ultron, where the murderous artificial intelligence Ultron's conquest plays out. There is a domain called the Marvel Zombies, a horrifying territory overrun by the flesh-eating undead versions of Marvel's heroes. There are domains based on specific famous storylines. There is a domain reflecting the events of Civil War, where the conflict between Iron Man and Captain America never ended, where the country remains split between two warring superhero factions divided by a literal border. There is a domain called 1602, set in an Elizabethan-era version of the Marvel Universe, where heroes exist in the 17th century. There is 1872, an Old West version of the Marvel Universe, where characters are cowboys, sheriffs, and outlaws. There is a domain called Higher Avalon, the home of the Captain Britain Corps. There is Egyptia, ruled by Apocalypse and themed around ancient Egypt. There is Technopolis, where everyone must wear armor to survive a plague in the air, home to a war-torn version of the Iron Man mythology. There is the domain of K'un-Lun, home to the martial arts heroes. There is Manhattan, which holds a peculiar significance because it contains the few survivors who remember the old world. And then, there are the three most dangerous domains of all, the ones so threatening that Doom walled them off from the rest of Battleworld entirely. The Shield, the wall that holds back the end. Along the southern edge of Battleworld stands a colossal wall known as the Shield. This is not a metaphorical barrier. It is a massive physical structure that separates the main inhabited domains of Battleworld from three territories so lethal that if their contents were ever released, they would destroy everything. The three domains held back by the Shield are the Deadlands, Perfection, and New Xandar. The Deadlands is the domain of the Marvel Zombies, an endless horde of undead, flesh-hungry versions of every hero and villain imaginable. If the zombie plague were ever to spread beyond the wall, it would consume all of Battleworld. New Xandar is home to the Annihilation Wave, the swarm of insectoid alien soldiers led by a nihilist that once threatened the entire cosmos, an army of bloodthirsty alien conquerors contained behind the Shield. And Perfection is the domain of the Ultrons, an army of the genocidal robot, endlessly multiplying, programmed to exterminate organic life. The Shield is guarded by the heroes of the Eastern and Western Defense Forces, and standing watch over this wall is a duty of grim importance, because the soldiers stationed there know that they are all that stands between the living domains and total annihilation. The imagery deliberately evokes the wall from Game of Thrones, a comparison Hickman himself acknowledged, with the brave defenders holding back the monstrous threats from the cold, dead lands beyond. This detail reveals something important about Battleworld's construction. Doom did not just randomly throw fragments together. He engineered the placement of the domains. The most dangerous realities were quarantined behind the Shield. The more stable ones were placed in the habitable center, and buffer zones were created between threats. Doom built this world with the careful, controlling precision that defines his entire character. Even as God, he is an engineer at heart, managing his creation like a vast and intricate machine. The survivors, those who remember. Now we come to the thread that drives the entire plot of Secret Wars. Among the billions of inhabitants of Battleworld who believe Doom has always been God, there exists a tiny handful of beings who remember the truth. These are the survivors of the old multiverse. People who escaped the final destruction in special vessels called life rafts. Before the last universe died, Reed Richards built a life raft designed to preserve a small number of people through the end of all things. allowing them to survive the death of reality and emerge into whatever came next. A group of heroes from the main Marvel universe boarded this raft. Separately, a group from the Ultimate Universe, including that universe's Reed Richards, who had become the villainous Maker, also survived in their own vessel. When Battleworld formed, these life rafts were buried, and their occupants remained in stasis for 8 years of Battleworld time, before finally being discovered and awakened. Among the survivors were figures like Star-Lord, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, Thor, Black Panther, and crucially, both the heroic Reed Richards of Earth 616 and the villainous Maker of Earth 1610. Also among the survivors was a young mutant named Miles Morales, the ultimate Spider-Man, whose presence becomes significant later. These survivors awaken into a world that does not remember the universe they came from, ruled by a god they know to be a man, with no one believing their account of how reality truly came to be. They are the only ones who know that Doom is a usurper wearing the stolen power of murdered cosmic gods. And their awakening sets in motion the conflict that will determine the fate of Battleworld. The conflict, Reed Richards versus God. The central drama of Secret Wars becomes a confrontation between Doom and Reed Richards, the two men whose rivalry defined the old universe, now meeting again under impossibly elevated stakes. One is God. The other is the man who should have been there to stop the multiverse from dying in the first place. When the survivors begin to move against Doom, the cracks in his divine order start to show. Doom is not a stable god. He carries the immense weight of holding reality together through sheer will, channeling the Beyonder power through himself constantly. And he is plagued by a single insecurity that no amount of godhood can erase. He knows deep down that Reed Richards could have done what he did, and perhaps done it better. Doom's entire identity is built on being superior to Reed, and the existence of Reed on Battleworld threatens the foundation of his self-conception. The Molecule Man, Owen Reese, becomes the pivotal figure. It is revealed that the true source of Doom's power is not really Doom himself, but the Molecule Man, who exists in every reality and whose collected power across the multiverse was the fuel that allowed the Beyonders to be killed and Battleworld to be built. Doom kept the Molecule Man fed and content, hidden away as the secret battery powering his godhood. But the Molecule Man's loyalty was never guaranteed. When Reed Richards and the surviving heroes finally confront the truth of Battleworld's power structure, the Molecule Man makes a choice. He recognizes that Reed, not Doom, represents what should come next. In the climactic confrontation, the Molecule Man transfers his cosmic power to Reed Richards, stripping Doom of the godhood he had held. The fall of Doom and the truth. The final confrontation between Doom and Reed is one of the most thematically rich moments in modern Marvel. Stripped of his power, or in the process of losing it, Doom finally admits something he never could before. Reed asks him a simple, devastating question. If Doom truly had the power of a god, why did he not fix his own scarred face? Why did he not make the world perfect? And in their final exchange, Doom confesses the truth that defines him. He says that he always believed, deep down, that if their positions had been reversed, Reed would have done a better job. That Reed would have fixed everything. It is the closest Doom ever comes to admitting that Reed is the better man, and it is a moment of genuine, shocking vulnerability from a character defined by his arrogance. Reed, now wielding the power that was Doom's, does not seek to rule. Instead, he works with the Molecule Man to undo Battleworld and restore the multiverse. The patchwork planet, having served its purpose as the womb of a new reality, is unmade. From its fragments and from Reed's restorative power, a new multiverse is born. rebooting the Marvel Universe and setting the stage for everything that followed. And in a final act of strange grace, the multiverse that is reborn is shaped in part by Reed, his family, and the Molecule Man, who travel through the new realities, repairing and rebuilding what was lost. Doom, meanwhile, is given something unexpected. In the new reality, his scarred face is healed, a quiet gift from Reed, an acknowledgement that whatever else passed between them, Doom was once his friend. What Battleworld means. So, what is the deeper meaning of Battleworld? Why does this concept resonate so strongly? And why has it remained one of Marvel's most beloved and influential ideas? At its core, Battleworld is the ultimate expression of Dr. Doom's character. For decades, Doom has claimed that he could rule the world better than anyone, that if he were in charge, there would be peace, order, and prosperity. Battleworld is Doom finally getting exactly what he always said he wanted: absolute power, total control, godhood itself. And the genius of the story is that it shows both the appeal and the horror of that fantasy. Doom's Battleworld is, in many ways, functional. He saved what could be saved. He created a stable world out of total annihilation. The trains run on time, the threats are contained behind the shield, and existence continues where otherwise there would be nothing. In Doom's mind, he is the hero of this story. He did what Reed and the Illuminati could not. He looked into the abyss of total non-existence, and he built something to hold it back. But Battleworld is also a prison. It is a world built on stolen power, sustained by erased memories and enforced worship. Doom did not just save people, he made them bow. He rewrote their histories. He took the wife and children of his rival and made them his own. His paradise is a cage, beautiful from a distance but suffocating up close. And ultimately, his rule cannot last, because a god who must erase the truth to maintain his power is not truly a god at all. He is a man pretending, and the pretense always cracks. The thematic heart of Secret Wars is the contrast between Doom and Reed. Both are geniuses. Both face the end of everything. But where Doom's response to ultimate power was to control, to dominate, to remake the world in his own image and demand worship, Reed's response was to let go, to rebuild, and then step back, to create a multiverse free rather than a planet enslaved. The difference between them is the difference between a tyrant and a true hero. And it is not about intelligence or power. It is about what you do when you finally get everything you ever wanted. The legacy of Battleworld. Battleworld did not simply end and disappear. Its impact on Marvel Comics and the wider Marvel landscape has been enormous. The 2015 Secret Wars served as a soft reboot of the entire Marvel Universe, allowing the publisher to integrate elements from the Ultimate Universe into the main continuity. Most famously, Miles Morales, the Ultimate Spider-Man, survived Battleworld and was brought into the main Marvel Universe, where he has become one of the most popular characters in all of comics. The concept of Battleworld has recurred in various forms since, with Marvel returning to the idea of patchwork worlds and domain-based realities in later events. The idea proved so flexible and so rich that it became a permanent part of Marvel's toolkit, a setting that can be revisited whenever the publisher wants to explore alternate versions of its characters side by side. And perhaps most significantly, Battleworld and the 2015 Secret Wars are widely believed to be the foundation for the Marvel Cinematic Universe's multiverse saga. With films built around the multiverse, the incursions, and a culminating event titled After Secret Wars, the comic concepts pioneered by Hickman and Rebic are poised to shape the biggest film franchise in the world. The image of Doom as a god ruling over a world of multiversal fragments, the threat of incursions destroying colliding universes, and the survivors fighting to restore reality are all concepts that originated here on Battleworld. final thoughts. Battleworld is one of the most audacious ideas in comic book history. A single planet built from the bones of hundreds of dead universes, ruled by a man who made himself God, divided into dozens of domains, each containing a different reality, patrolled by an army of Thors, and walled off from threats so terrible they could end existence. It is a setting that allowed Marvel to celebrate its entire history, bringing back beloved alternate realities and what-if scenarios, while telling a deeply personal story about two men, Doom and Reed, and the fundamental difference in how they each would shape a world. It is the story of Doom finally winning, finally becoming everything he ever claimed he could be, and discovering that even godhood cannot fill the hole inside him or make him into the man he always wished he was. It is the story of Reed Richards inheriting ultimate power and choosing, in the end, to give it away rather than rule. And it is the story of how the Marvel Universe died and was reborn, with Battleworld serving as the strange, magnificent, terrible crucible in which a new reality was forged. A patchwork planet, a stolen throne, a god who was only ever a man. That is Battleworld. And whether you encounter it in the pages of Secret Wars or eventually on the big screen, it remains one of the most unforgettable settings the Marvel Universe has ever produced. That's the complete breakdown of Battleworld. A world born from the end of everything, ruled by the proudest man in all of creation, and ultimately undone by the one truth Doom could never escape, that the weapon, the world, the power, none of it ever mattered as much as the man who wielded it. And in the end, Victor Von Doom, for all his godhood, was only ever a man who wanted to be more